from Fragomen solicitors who will be giving an input into this very important topic. Kelly, if I could hand over to you without any further ado, thank you.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Hi, everyone. And we've got a bit to cover today, so we'll try and be as quick as we can. So by way of introduction, I am Kelly Hardman. I am a senior manager at Fragomen. Fragomen is a specialist immigration law firm. We're the market leader with over 6,000 professionals worldwide delivering immigration services around the world. I'm actually physically based in Edinburgh, and today, alongside my colleagues Gemma Hislop and also Beth Nichols from Talent Beyond Boundaries, we are going to give you a very high-level overview and insight, and introduce you to the concept of recruiting displaced talent from outside of the UK and some of the immigration options that may be available. So really just to kind of jump right in. So as I've mentioned, we are a world-leading immigration law firm. We only deal with immigration. So we are very well placed to look at all of the different considerations from an employment law, tax, social security, and regulatory issues that play a big part in the challenges that Scottish engineering and your clients may face when it comes to tackling a lot of the economic, geopolitical, and pandemic factors in recruitment. With Brexit, there is obviously a huge skills shortage, and if we look at Scotland specifically, there is no doubt that Scotland and the wider UK more generally is one of the best locations in the world for growing talent in the engineering field. Looking at Scotland specifically, obviously we're currently going through a geo-economic tsunami, and we're finding ourselves in a situation where, as a leading country in the field of engineering, that we're ultimately looking for talent, and whether that's retention of talent or sourcing out new talent, we really want to give you an insight as to the fantastic work that Talent Beyond Boundaries do in terms of looking at displaced talent and how you may be able to employ and sponsor them from an immigration perspective. I'm going to hand over to Beth very shortly, who's going to talk you through this in a little bit more detail, but really just to give you a little bit of a high-level insight. The concept of displaced talent is really looking at those individuals who find themselves in very challenging and difficult situations. When you hear the term refugee, you may automatically have a concept or an image in your mind of what that looks like. But Talent Beyond Boundaries have a talent catalogue that consists of thousands of individuals. With the engineering sector specifically, there are currently over 5,000 engineers and over 24,000 other skilled individuals in the trade industries that may be very relevant for Scottish engineering. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Beth to walk you through the work that Talent Beyond Boundaries do specifically, and then my colleague Gemma is going to talk a little bit about the work that Fragomen can do to support you in this. So Beth, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Yeah, so it's kind of, as Kelly mentioned, we at Talent Beyond Boundaries look at the issue of skilled refugees around the world outside of the UK who need jobs and are kind of stuck in places where they have no working rights. And then we work with employers in the UK and in our other country programs who are suffering kind of massive shortages in talent, and we connect those two groups. So essentially enabling refugees to leverage their own professional skills for safe and secure futures. And there are a few key principles to how the programme runs, and this is the same in all our country programmes. I won't go through all of these, but just a couple that I'll pull out. So the programme is employer-led, and how do we do that? We run sessions like these. We work on an individual level with each employer to find out what the key gaps are in their organisations, and then we use that to inform our search of the talent catalogue and make sure that we're putting forward candidates who are the most qualified for the roles. And so just a kind of quick overview of our different country programs. So we can basically divide the countries that we work in into destination countries and source countries. So candidates who are successful and are employed through the program can relocate to the UK, Australia, Canada, and just recently we have started to open programs in Portugal, Belgium and Ireland, and we are growing our European presence. And primarily the candidates who arrive in Scotland and England and Ireland are from the Middle East. So we have a high percentage of people who are originally from Syria, Afghanistan, and are currently residing in Jordan, Lebanon, and Pakistan. But we are also expanding to work with candidates who are from Venezuela and some areas of Southeast Asia and East Africa. And yeah, Gemma will maybe speak more to this, but the program is based on the skilled worker visa. So if you're already doing international recruitment, this is something that you'll be familiar with. And essentially, the Talent Beyond Boundaries with Fragomen's support has kind of worked closely with the government to negotiate some benefits and flexibilities to the skilled worker visa process, so that our candidates who might face additional barriers to accessing that skilled worker visa, those barriers are removed for them. So as well as that, there are some kind of benefits for the employers who are using the skilled worker visa to hire through the program. So if you have a referral from Talent Beyond Boundaries, then the priority processing fee is waived, and that visa is turned around in 5 days, which is incredibly appealing for employers who are looking for talent quickly. So yeah, that's the skilled worker visa. And in terms of the kind of program in Scotland, so we launched the program here in the UK. We call it our UK program in 2020, but in fact we actually had our first arrivals into Scotland in January. We've had 9 candidates arrive in Scotland and their family members in addition to those 9 primary candidates. So 9 candidates have started employment in Scotland since January. And we have a goal of, well, we would like to achieve more than 50, but we are working closely with the government to bring at least 50 people to Scotland by September this year. And the kind of key areas that we're working in is energy, construction, engineering, and then additionally kind of fintech and healthcare. We have recently placed 2 individuals at an engineering company called Enemec in Aberdeen. So one of those is a site engineer and one of those is a project engineer. And so they actually are due to arrive in the next few weeks. But yeah, we have kind of no shortage of talent, and I will speak to that in the next slide. There's an awful lot of skilled professionals on our talent catalogue who are looking for work and a safe and secure future in the engineering sector. But what my role is to really grow the employer network. So we are looking for kind of allies and employers in Scotland who would be interested in finding out more about the programme. So the talent catalogue, you can kind of think of it like a little bit like a LinkedIn, that is only for people who are displaced or from a refugee background. And we have almost 70,000 people on the talent catalogue. And yeah, this number is actually a little bit higher now, but a large proportion of those are engineers. And it's very common for the candidates in the engineering sector who we kind of meet in the Middle East, who have worked in the oil industry around the Middle East. So they yeah, are super qualified and have lots of experience that is really beneficial to the engineering sector here in the UK. I won't spend too long on the demographics, but I guess one thing to say is that a requirement of the skilled worker visa is that comes through the pathway has to have a certain level on their IELTS test. So sometimes employers are concerned about English language abilities, but you can see that that's not a concern with these candidates. Often they've studied in English or they have indeed worked in English. If you are interested, I won't go through the kind of whole process step by step, but I think what's important to say is that Talent Beyond Boundaries supports the process from start to finish. So we will work with you from the kind of the moment of sharing a job description and signing. We have an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, which lays out kind of your expectations and our expectations. And we will work with you until 12 months after the candidate arrives in the UK. And we have a dedicated integration team. So I support employers up until the point of a job offer being made. And then employers are handed over to our integration team and they support the employer and the candidate with the kind of pre-departure and then post-departure piece. So that's kind of relocation, mobility, social integration, community integration, the accommodation piece, all of those things that sometimes employers need support with. Our integration team are well geared to support with. And another note is that from the kind of point of sharing a job description with us to a candidate arriving in the UK is an average of 3 months, which is kind of really positive when often when you're kind of hiring locally, if you're waiting for someone to hand in their notice, that's quite a competitive time frame. And we're very lucky because yeah, that kind of priority processing flexibility and the fact that we have a dedicated desk at the Home Office means that we can really deal with any issues quickly, and we have a direct line to the team that are processing the visas. And yeah, just to say, in some of our other country programs, it's not quite as fast, so we're quite lucky in that sense.
Beth, I'm so sorry, you've just switched to mute somehow.
I managed to mute all the other participants now, so please carry on. Cheers, thank you.
Thanks so much. I'm so sorry, I'm not sure if it's just me, but Beth, I think you might need to manually come off mute. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Gemma.
There you go. Thanks so much.
I won't go into too much detail here because I know we're pushed for time, but just to highlight this lovely case study of a couple who recently arrived to Glasgow. So Ahmad is a data risk analysis for a legal company based in Glasgow, and he came across with his wife. They were living in Pakistan and they are Afghan, and yeah, had a very difficult time when the conflict started, and his wife was unable to work and unable to study, and kind of lost a lot of the rights that we all take for granted. So he told me actually that, yeah, he kind of submitted his CV to our talent catalogue when kind of looking at ways to access a safe pathway out of Afghanistan, and didn't really think anything more of it and wasn't convinced that it was going to lead anywhere. But fortunately, at the same time, a legal organisation was looking to fill a role that they had really been struggling to fill with local hires, and they shared the job description with us. He was shortlisted, and yeah, I think it's always important to highlight here that it's a competitive process. We encourage employers to stick to their usual recruitment practices. He was up against other candidates, and their employer selected him. So whilst this program has incredible benefits for the individual and for the employer, it's not charity. You are getting the most qualified person for the role. Ahmed accepted the offer, which comes with some support from our integration team. So we have an informed decision-making call where we explain what life in Glasgow will look like, what the cost of living is, what accommodation will be like, and thereafter they move to accept the offer. Once the kind of visa process is completed, candidates can be on a flight very soon thereafter. And then I think everyone's favourite part of the process is arrival day. So we go to the airport with the employer and meet the candidates and any dependents, which is always, yeah, just really lovely. And Ahmed has settled in really well to his role and gets really good feedback from his managers. And I guess, yeah, another thing to point out here is that we work with partners to provide some of the kind of relocation support and integration support post-arrival. And those partners are introduced to the employer so that they can feel confident that they are able to support the employee once they arrive in the UK, and kind of those concerns are alleviated so that the individual can just hit the ground running and start their role. We have an alumni network, which is made up of everybody who has arrived in the UK, and we have kind of subgroups within that. So we have a Scotland group, and we organise events and activities, and there's a community kind of communication platform where candidates provide peer-to-peer support. We're setting up a buddy system, yeah, that kind of peer-to-peer support is really invaluable. And I think I'd just leave you with this kind of what we like to say is essentially electing to hire someone through this program is firstly the smart thing to do, and secondly the right thing to do. So if you are struggling to hire talent from the pool that is available to you, and we have spoken to Scottish employers about how kind of organisations are fighting over the same talent, this is an opportunity to access a pool of untapped talent. Our candidates are resilient and they are determined. They have often been through challenging circumstances that means that when they arrive in the UK, they are very resilient and capable people. There's strong loyalty and high retention rates of our candidates. We have never had a candidate leave a role or an employer want to terminate a contract in the UK, and we've brought almost 200 people to the UK. So I think that really speaks to the process and how we make sure that the employer is getting someone they feel confident in. It's the right thing to do, and that it lifts somebody out of displacement, and it helps with diversity and kind of equality and inclusion at your organisation, and builds a positive company brand. And I think I'll hand over to Gemma now, who will finish up.
Thanks so much, Beth, and thank you very much, everybody. I'm conscious of time, so I'll just make a few quick points if I may. I just reiterate that, as Beth said, before the pilot came into place, we were in close liaison with Talent Beyond Boundaries and the UK government to build out the parameters of that pilot. A really important thing to emphasise is that it was never about reducing or lowering the strict criteria around the existing visa category. That's simply not necessary because these individuals are eminently skilled, an excellent level of English, and they would qualify against those strict criteria irrespective of the pilot. The beauty of the pilot is it's just an acknowledgement of the fact that this particular demographic are disproportionately and sort of indirectly impacted by certain bureaucracy around the visa application process simply by dint of being displaced. So when it comes to travel documents, for example, if you've had to flee your home, you may not have a valid passport, you may not have had time to stop and grab your degree certificate. So the UK government acknowledged those barriers which disproportionately impact this particular demographic by way of introducing flexibility through the pilot. Another point to make, and this is a sort of a mantra that we reiterate again and again when working with Talent Beyond Boundaries, is that the whole concept of displaced talent is really win-win-win. It's a win for the individual who's lifted out of poverty and into security and is able to use their skills to develop not only a job but a career in their new country of destination. It's a win for the employer who gets an incredibly qualified, resilient and dedicated employee. And it's a win for the local economy who benefits from that increased productivity. Talent Beyond Boundaries have worked with Fragomen in various different countries, but in the UK, our role is not only as legal advisors, but also as an employer. Fragomen have recruited 2 people via Talent Beyond Boundaries, 2 Afghan candidates who are now working in our office in Sheffield as paralegals, doing absolutely brilliant work. So if anyone has any subsequent questions about the legal process or even about the employer experience, please do let us know and we'd be more than happy to talk to that. I think I'll leave it there. We've seen there's some excellent comments within the question chat. Thanks so much for that. So we'll make a note of those and be sure to reach out. But I'll pause now to see if there are any questions. Thank you. If anybody does have any questions, please do come off mute. Thanks so much.
Hey folks, just to reiterate what Gemma said there, happy to take any questions from the attendees. Please speak up. If not, I will thank everybody for attending this slightly poorly organised one, but at my end, I do again apologise to everybody. So again, to our speakers, Fragomen, thank you very much, and I'll bid everyone a very good morning. Thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
so much.
Thanks so much, everyone.